Good evening, folks. Interesting adventures had, I have to say. So, quick update. Arrested New Year's Day, witnessing a guy decided to trade police with their tactical ops, with their giving it the big we're going to break in. So I got there, as you can see on the video, before that actually took place. Now, they didn't stop him trading, so they didn't fulfil any duty that they might claim that they were enforcing on that day of their own fruition. But they arrested me. Okay, so I got a load of nonsense document. Where is that? It's absolute pish, making no sense whatsoever. Address, and it's all about some kind of fiction. Okay, some fiction going down here. And it said to me, you must go to court on the 21st of January. So, normal court procedure. Police make an arrest, file a charge. There's a file starting to be created. Okay. So the next step is they have to send that file off to the court with the fee that you have to pay to take somebody to court. That's also in the file. They're called case management files. Okay, case management files. So, how does that operate? Well, it's like this. So you've been charged, you've got your duty solicitor, etc. Blah, 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 blah. So what does he do? He then gets a copy of the case management files. So he knows who's involved, times, receipts for any payments that have been paid out, etc. But more importantly, who's making the charge, who's bringing the claim, everything that you need to know in relation to what it is that's being set against your person. Okay, so case management files are generated. So you're not using a solicitor. You need those case files. Simple. Nothing difficult about that whatsoever, you might think. So on the 6th of January 2021, I sent data subject access request. Did you get that? Data subject access request. Simple request. Even year 8 would understand those words put together and what it's actually asking for, I'm quite sure. So we're basically that I wish to possess the following information in pursuant with the court procedure rules. So that's CPR abbreviated. So the court procedure rules are what governs how the court has to operate if it's operating correctly. Alright, so they're governed by all these rules and regulations. So every person involved in this play, the charade, is operating according to rules. Okay, and of course, if you're going in as a person, you're then subject to all these rules, providing they can remove you from the controlling position in the trust. Okay, so that's where they're going. So they've got these rules. So you need to know these rules. You need to know where. If you don't know their rules, how could you possibly know if they're breaking them? And of course, you need to know what they're breaking in order you can bring them to book. We use the court procedure rule CPR 5.42, which gives you have got full access and a right to your caseman files. Okay, now usually, as I said, your solicitor picks these up, so you don't even need to get to see them as a rule. But when you're standing as a man, you need to know this stuff, because if you don't, then you wouldn't want to try to present yourself as a man, because you would fail. I mean, I'll not get ahead of myself, but back in the day when we used to try our arms in the courts all the years that we did, one thing that we all had in common was we couldn't work out whether they knew what was going on, and in which case we had to tell them. So we would tell them copious, lots and lots. Well, I didn't actually do much of that, but most of the guys that I knew and that were playing this game did. You 25 pages of why you must. Well, you know, I learned a long time ago, they already know. They already know all this. They're playing in an act. They're actors, okay? You haven't got a clue that you're in this act. You know, that's the secret, okay? This hearing that I had on Thursday, the rabbi's court, Don't forget this, people. If the rabbis have 2 days a week where they can bum the Christian. Okay, that's Monday and Thursday. If you're ever in a court on a Monday or a Thursday, you're being rogered by the rabbis. Okay, that's their jurisdiction. It's a Talmud. The Talmud is dealing with you on a Monday and a Thursday. Okay, really important when you get into that kind of side of things that you have that in mind. What Christian would want a court date on a Monday or a Thursday? Are you going to get a fair trial? Oh no. Are you going to get a fair hearing? Oh no, you're in there to make money to pay for all these actors in the court. Okay. So, this Thursday's little shindig, do you know what it showed me? Doesn't matter what smile they've got, doesn't matter how pleasant they look, right down to the receptionist as you go in. They know what they're doing. Here we go again, people. I've rabbit on and on about having the correct title. Believe you me, it's everything. However, and this is another thing that I've had to learn again, because it's 6 years since I stopped playing with them because they kept biting my ass. Because I was thick. Okay, I was thick. And I kept getting punished for being thick. Basically because I couldn't be asked to put that little bit extra effort in that you probably needed to do to win. But that's by the by. 6 years have passed. Here again thrown into the merry pit with all these strange actors. Okay? So, get it out of your heads now, all of you. Okay? If you are pursuing anything in law, in the legal, if you're in that arena, in that dance, take it from me. Every single one of them knows exactly what they're doing. They know why they're doing it. And they know they haven't to let the cat out of the bag to you. And they have all these little acts to play you and grab you in and pull you in. Usher, lovely woman, you would think. If she's somebody's grandma, okay? This Usher was somebody's grandma. And obviously this grandma, Usher, presents this face of fantasticness to her grandchildren. And probably indeed her children. But they probably have a good idea anyway that things aren't right. Because they're adults. They're not adults. They're not corrupt and they're not corrupters of others. That's an adult. Do you want to be an adulterer? You're getting it now. Can you see how it all pings back to them 10 sentences that were put in this box yonks ago? Yeah, you know what I mean? And they've wrapped a load of shit around it to hide that, because that's the real deal, but they've got you all trapped up in this nonsense that they've built around that. Anyway, so adulterer. Adult. One who's corrupt and who corrupts others. You don't ever want to be an adult either. Yeah. But back to the point, because I'm waffling. Every single one of these people in this charade know exactly what they're doing. Get it into your minds, people. They all know exactly what act they're playing in. Okay? So really, that's the first point that I need to get out of any ideas of doubt that that's not the case. It is the case, and that's exactly how they operate. Understand that and know it. Picture you've just seen. That shows Blackburn Magistrates Court, its address, its email address. Okay? So there you go. You can communicate with the Blackburn Court via letter or via email address. Now, pretty standard, looks straightforward. That's how the courts operate between themselves and you out there and the solicitors. Yeah, we've got to be communicating all the time. This is the format they provide. So we sent subject access request to the Blackburn email address. A government email access denial comes back. So I'm thinking, what's going on there? Sent it again. Another access denial. So I says to my mate, here, you try sending it in case they block my email address. Sent in the package, blocked. So, on that day, the 6th of January, the communications with Blackburn Magistrates Court was stopped. You were obstructed from accessing the court. Now, the court's buildings are public buildings, are they not? Do we have a right to be in them? Yes, we do. Do they have a right to put security on and aggravate the public? No, They don't. They do it because slow, incremental implementation of your behaviour change to satisfy this game has accepted that. Just like you've accepted the fact that you pay council tax, you pay for the council to pick up litter and dog shit and clear the drains, etc. But now they've slipped it in so that you're paying for that and doing it for them. Yep. Now let's look at the math. In the maths, if you've already paid for a service, let's say 20 quid, right? And then you do that service for them, and then they put what they're charging you up. Can you see what I'm saying? Now, that didn't register with any of you over the years because you've no longer educated. You might be expert in what you've been programmed to copy, i.e., you went to school, you were copying somebody else's idea of what is an education. Then if you want more brainwashing programming, you want more of the script they are offering so that they can give you a job, you've got to learn more and copy it, what they say is the way it is, right? And then they might pay you some pennies. When you've had a test and the vaccine up your ass, okay? So can you see, you know, you might think you're smart and fantastic, but you're not. You're just an expert in remembering what you were programmed to remember so you could play a part in this game that these people have got going. Doesn't matter whether you're in medicine, accounting, anything, whatever sphere of interest you choose, are you using intelligence that you're born with and creating, or are you copying and then representing what you've copied that somebody wrote 14,000 BC? Yeah. So are you actually intelligent if you know a lot? Not unless you can apply your own creative energy to it. Anything other than that, and you're just a copier. There's nothing about you. To be expert in what they've pumped out and said, you will obey, believe, that is not intelligence. That's stupid. Especially if what you're learning isn't actually servicing what it is you think you're servicing. And in fact, you're servicing in a lot of cases the opposite. Lawyers. Justice, law. Law is law. And you're there to ensure the law is served. And then whoever it is that you're arbitrating for as a court is being judged by the law, not on how well he spoke. Did he say the wrong word? Did he go in the box and accept himself person? Did I assume he's person because I want to assume he's person, because if I don't, the game's up and I'm the judge and I'm in some deep shit. These are the questions going on in their minds, because they're acting contrary to giving you your God-given freedoms to the laws ordained and put in the box. Everything else is outside the box, people. It's called Mosaic law. So if Joe Biden's being put up as another Moses, can you see who's shooting up his bottom and has been all his life? Well, it's a Jesuit priest, hasn't he? Yeah, Jesuit. Trump, Jesuit educated, Jesuit programmed. So you've had one Jesuit puppet president left and another one's just come in. And another one's just come in and signed numerous executive orders undoing what the trumpet did and making you wear a mask now under an executive order over there in the old US of A. Masks, boy, listen to me carefully. In the British Isles is where I live, my backyard. They've been wearing masks now, the monkeys, since November. Let me tell you now, it's like living in a world of the Gollum. They are down here, because they're not getting the oxygen to the brain, which is why before you go up Everest, for 2 weeks before, if you want to go to the base camp without oxygen, you have to wear a mask for 2 weeks, or maybe more, in order you can get your body used to not having as much oxygen in the brain, so there's less function. And it puts you into a sort of trance state, so you're not actually aware that there's been a shift in how your brain functions. And you have to do that if you want to get to base camp on Everest without oxygen. So there's a method to it. There's a reason why they want everybody masks. They've realised how dumb you become. Even worse than you used to be if you don't watch this channel. I mean, if this is the first time you've watched this channel, you might want to go and see David Icke, then Alex Jones first. Just bring yourself slowly up to truth. So you start at bottom end first. You know what I'm saying? Because they'll just carry off on fantasy nonsense just so you can escape actually having to realise that you're here in the world, in the territory. Get out your map and start acting in the actual territory that you live in. You know, don't waltz off down the fantasy. The earth's flat. Who gives a fuck whether the earth's flat? I'm on it. I don't fall off. Sun shines, clouds go by. I'm happy. I couldn't give a shit whether it's oblong, obloid, a tomato. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to my little world down here. Alright? It's irrelevant. It's a waste of my time, and a division usually arises because if you believe you're a flat earther, you can't stand anybody that doesn't accept your format. Division. They created that in 2014, chaps, for you to jump on. Can you dig it? Space. Who cares about space? Who cares? Space has always been there. Every time I've looked at my window at night time, from being a flea bag, it's night time and I can see space. Now I call it space because I haven't got a clue what it is. It's big. It's big and there's lots of dots in it, things that move and stuff like that. So it exists, it's there, and I don't care if it's got black holes in it, even though it's black. Do you with me? It's black, but I don't care if it's got any holes in it. You know what I mean? There's no dripping. There's no dripping from up there on the old firmament. Nothing. I've not seen any drips of anything of the nature that I would have to get excited about it and then talk about it on the YouTube. You know, it's just nonsense, garbage. So I've waffled on there for ages and ages. So we'll take that as a starter for 2021 in relation to getting rid of one Jesuit and bringing in another. Now, they don't have to be Jesuits themselves on the oath. They're probably not, because they're naughty boys, businessmen, etc. And they can do things that the Jesuits can't. Although, having said that, if you looked at the Jesuit oath or the blood oath, they can do pretty much anything they want as long as you're a Protestant. As long as you're a Protestant, you're on that's it. You get Hunger Games, can you see? So they've captured all Masons. They've got you. You're all in there, leg up and all that. So they've captured you lot. You like the business boys. You've been screwed. They've captured all wayfaring Christians because they're Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses keep sending me letters saying, oh, brothers in Christ, listen, you really need to understand something. You're not. You are with the antagonist. You have been succumbed to the Noahide system, which is removing 3 of them 10 sentences as if it was God. Are you getting it? You call yourself Jesus. The 10 Commandments, what are they? The Gospels are about enforcing them. You're taking 3 off. You're taking 3 off because you shit yourself and you want the rapture. Can you see how you've been captured? Are you getting it? I don't have to go into detail, but you can see why you've been captured that way. Masons, you can see. Look, Master Mason, that's it in Freemason. There is nothing else above the Master Mason. Every other degree is something else. It's hoity-toity occult programming. Hoity-toity mystery school networks. That's what it is. So if you've got to Master Mason, you're a builder like me. You're good. You're a good one. You're a tradesman. You're a craftsman, right? You've become amazing. I'm not a mason, as in dib dib dib, but on paper I'm a bricklayer. That's a mason trade. You dig? That's it. That's the end of it. But I can't stand bricklaying because it's so boring. So we don't do it anyway. But it's nonsense. You're a Freemason up to Master Mason. Everything else is hoity-toity, occult, networking. That's what it is, all right? Bloody snowing out there, so obviously I've had to have a change of attire, so I'm camouflaged in case the court jesters come out and assassinate me. Something like that. So I'm in disguise. So we've changed the attire and stuff. Anyway, back to the subject matter, which is the court. So basically what was going on was there was no communication through the email addresses provided by Blackburn magistrates. I had to sign like that and go to Lancashire magistrates and ask them to forward it. Now, they responded immediately with a load of garbage as to why they couldn't do anything I'd asked, which didn't make any sense whatsoever. And most people would just take that. Ugh. But if you actually read it, it was just gobbledygook. They sent me one response from that. So I sent another reminding them of court procedure rules and certain other issues that would just help them to ensure that they are operating according to their procedures. Because, of course, these are all person and thus operating in the civil system, and therefore they are subject to all the rules and regulations within the Law Society, which makes the judiciary as we know it today. Of course, we also know that they're obfuscating justice or law because they're doing business. Yet the police on that day when they arrested me were doing business. Now, I'm just going to put a little image up now. I want you to have a look at this image and just recognise the difference between police officer and peace officer, okay? So here's the image. Okay, did you get that? Peace officer, constable. Police officer, policy. Doing business. Operating as a business, doing business, you're the victim. They have to get you into a position where they can get some cash out of you in fines, etc. Put you in jail. They get money. The taxpayers paying G4S to look after these prisons. Every time they make a move, money is generated to their system. Masonic, secret societies. That's what now is controlling every aspect of our domestic, civil, and judicial systems. This is where we're at. If it was not so, we'd have decent judges, we'd have decent lawyers. They're not. They're all playing. They're obfuscating law and putting you in the Mosaic nonsense because that benefits their society. All right? Now, by the Saturday following the 7th, what I sent then was a request for a court of record. That being the case, we were shifting it out of the police sending you to their own day where they've hired the court with their own, probably a retired lawyer acting as a judge, so that it ensures that you're going to get fined. So police arrest, then they're ensuring you get fined. Okay, if they don't do it that way, they're throwing ACRO spot fines at you, which again is made up of police constables, and ACRO is not signed into the ICO's data protection format, which means they are not legally allowed to collect your data, share your data, let alone send you out letters demanding monies. All right. So it's police, arrest, police, and in courts, ACRO, police. Police. That's one big front network hiding what goes on behind. So they're feeding and filtering you guys as a person into their own system in order they can do business and make money out of you. So, that in mind, back to the day, what I was trying to ascertain is, are you a constable or are you enforcing, or are you a police officer? All the officers involved, with exception of the first one, because he knew the crack, which is why he said very little, just looked very sheepish. That's Gavin. That's his name. And he's also a school governor. Okay, so hopefully some of the children at the school that he governs can see who this guy is when he's not pretending to be school governor. Also the teachers, the head, etc. You need to see this, who you've got on your school governor board. So do the parents, all right? But the other ones were being very deflective. So they were identifying as PC number when I'd asked for a name. So they obviously didn't understand what a name is. They were giving me a title. Why? Because they're doing business. It is a business contract. Right? And that's what I was trying to ascertain with them. The answers were obfuscating, so they were clearly acting contrary to the principles laid out for a police constable, a peace officer. The PC that they're using with the number. Yet, then they declare themselves police officers because they're doing business, and they're doing business under the COVID Act. So all these people are doing business. That's the obfuscation. Yeah, that's the deception, the deflection. So I sent in a request for a court of record, okay? And that had to be done in a specific way. That was done on the Saturday. Just about by the skin of my teeth managed to get it sent, recorded. And within an hour, so I took that to the General Post Office in Accrington, and within an hour, that letter was in the hands of the courts or the people involved in the Lancashire Magistrates Court email address, all right? Within an hour. So that's your postal service, right? They had it within an hour. Nothing. So that went back end. So they clearly want to know everything that's going on if anybody is dealing with the post office in the courts. I again got an email from Lancashire saying they're passing it on to the appropriate thing is for me to have a court of record. So then I put in a notice, not a request. I requested a court of record, which I can do because all courts, if a court has the ability to imprison or fine, it has to be a court of record. They're obfuscating that, which I learned in the hearing, because the district judge said clearly, the magistrates aren't a court of record. Well, they better be a court of record because they're issuing fines and they're issuing jail sentence. Yeah? So it's going to be a court of record. He thinks it doesn't have to be. Okay? So this county court judge in this hearing was playing the act with a smile. Okay? This is the game. So it's reminded me everything in this. So I got my court of record hearing. That's what we got. So instead of it going through them from the police to the police's bunch of rogues, we got a district judge in for a court of record. That is a very interesting adventure in and of itself. Rules are preventing your access to law, to the courts. Straight away, the COVID is they've inserted COVID now to deflect. So in instance in this hearing, the usher basically wouldn't take any paperwork because of COVID, right? This is the grandma I was talking about who presents herself as lovely to her grandchildren. This woman was playing a deceptive act because she wants to ensure that this carries on doing business. Yeah, that we're not in law, we're in business. That's the relationship they want with you, okay? So we got into the hearing, COVID again. Refusal to take the paperwork from me to the judge. This is the usher grandma. We got it. Never seen anything as pathetic in my life. And bearing in mind, this is a court of record here. This is being recorded by a young chap with a mask on. In fact, the only people that didn't have a mask on in that court that day were me, my mate, and the judge. I'm not in the act. I'm a man. I'm just a simple man, male. Okay? That's who I am. And I am the settler and beneficiary of the trust that I presented to that court, which is without surname. However, preventing me, came in between my rights to law by refusing the little usher to take my paperwork to the judge, obfuscating and especially using to ensure that by their own little wizardry, you're still doing business. You're not being acknowledged as man. I wasn't being acknowledged as the correct title. Because as he said at the end of the court, I believe. I'm not interested in belief. I'm not in there for your belief or your opinions. I'm in there for law to be arbitrating the issue. And that issue is trespass was made against me by these officers, the sergeant, the duty inspectors, Blackburn magistrates trying to prevent access to the courts for me to get law. They want me doing business because they're all doing business. That's what they're doing. And that's the reason why the questioning was going on in that original video I made where I ended up getting arrested. They're doing business. They're doing business. They're not servicing law. None of them. Okay? And that's what you really have to understand, that you're doing battle with these people. These people are doing war with you, and it's a deception. It's war by deception. I went in with the title. They prevented it from going to the judge, so it's not presented as paperwork in the thing. As I said, we're not right bothered about that at this stage because we wanted to... I needed it cementing in my head again what I'm dealing with, and they proved that beautifully. It was amazing how well they played that and showed me exactly that. I had title there. I always presented it as if I were discussing my position in the trust, and while also derogarising this paperwork that was given to me by Sergeant Plummer with a criminal conversion of fraud by incorporating a surname to my Christian name when I have title here that's very clear that that's not the trust that's operational here. But they don't want that. They want you to keep you doing business. So that I got my court record. I also put in before that a notice that I was going to be there as a special appearance. Okay, so I was going in there not as the person they'd assumed or presumed that I was coming in making a special appearance. All right, so that's the second thing we did. Then what I did is reinforce the court record, and I sent it a further twice. Registered. Suffice to say, by the Thursday, I got my court of hearing. They played stupid, played foolish on all counts on every subject matter. We've now set a date. This date has been set for the 2nd of June. Okay, so that gives me the opportunity now to complete what I didn't manage to complete in the short space of time for that hearing, where we could have dealt with it and settled it on there, because there were things I had to do. I now can achieve that, and off we go for June the 2nd. Now, he has told me, the judge, that the magistrates' courts aren't a court of record, all right? So he's outed the game there, because that doesn't go along with English common law. It doesn't go along with it at all. If they can imprison, if they can fine, it's a court of record. It's a sim, and if it isn't, then you're being played. That's the sign. They're shoving you into the jurisdiction to keep doing business, not law. Everything that you think you're doing, you're not in that unless you can put yourself in the jurisdiction of law by putting them in the place. You're going to be in there doing business. So there's a lot to be learned, and this little shindig has sort of thrown me back into the pit, quick smart, to get me back thinking in terms of how it's working, this law stuff. Because the law, not the business, the law is the remedy. We have to establish our standing and, more to the point, understand what the game is. Because until we recognise that, then just because our map's telling us we're in the correct jurisdiction we want, we're not. And we're not because of the way you've put your paperwork in, the title that you're operating on, and then how you operate your position within the trust. You've got to put it forward. Now, I put it forward every time in this hearing. I went in there and put out everything I thought I needed to put out because it was on record. And that can't be removed. Now, we might have some fun and games now trying to get that record. But bear in mind, these people are all operating in an act. And that act is all about deceiving you so that you're not in law, you're doing business. And they're doing business and you're going to pay. You're going to pay because that's what the magistrates and bunch of rogues are going to do. These magistrates are operating not as court of record. That in itself shows you that you're not in law. No matter what they bleat, you're not in law. You're in a lesser jurisdiction. So that is the most important thing that you all need to start to reckon with in your mind. You don't need to tell them anything. You just have to show your capacity to hold your jurisdiction and the jurisdiction that's going to keep you in law in that court, because it's keeping the court in law. They will do this act. They'll play it. I watched it all. Usher, judge. But the game is this: that all them police officers involved on the day when I got arrested were doing business. And the reason why they weren't answering the questions is because they had to be extremely careful that they didn't expose themselves to that fact. All right? So they're doing business, but claiming to be operating law. No, they're operating contract law because they're doing business. So you want to maybe re-establish yourself with that video to understand what I was doing in the way I was approaching this. I have to say, in that video, once she laughed at me after I asked her for a warrant card, it did knock me off balance completely. But the simple fact is this: words aside, did I obstruct police constables in their duty of keeping the peace? No. The only thing that was bothering these officers was the fact that they were running the risk here of being exposed as claiming to be peace officers and constables while clearly being police officers and enforcing policy, contract law, to do business. All right. So that's basically where we're at today with this. So we've had the event. I got a court of record. Wasn't easy. You're not getting any, they're obstructing at every level. They're obstructing you communicating with the courts. They're obstructing you moving paperwork when you get in the court with court. Act is a business plan. It's a business strategy. And if you go back to earlier in the year, I made a video explaining that very fact, that the pandemic is a business plan. That's what it is. It's a bigger thing than just that. It's a behaviour change plan. Let me just give you this in relation to how everything here is being done consensual. The plan was for Trump to do 8 years. Why? Because they believed it would take 8 years to get you to change your behaviour. They didn't need another 4 years of Trump. They've got it. By wearing a mask, staying in your kennel and shutting your business, they don't need an extra 4 years of Trump. They speeded the whole game up. You have speeded everything up. Everything. You listen to them executive orders. America, wakey wakey. Blighty, wakey wakey. See the game. I watched everything in this hearing, and all I ever did was keep the standing. They played the game. They played the game. I mean, at the end of it, he said, "I'll bail you." I said, "Bail?" I said, "I'm on no bail." I said, "I'm settling beneficiary of that trust. This creature is your bail." And that was the charge sheet, because that's what it's about, not me. Okay? You've got to keep, and that's where your language comes in. And this is where your grasp on what rules these people have got to be abiding by, so you can understand when they're not. And they were doing business for Louise Hilton. Louise Hilton, environment officer. You see, they're all officers, they're all policy enforcers, but claiming to be peace officers, the constables. All right? That's what you need to start to grasp now in your mind, like that flow. They're doing business. And they're enforcing the business of whoever they're doing. So if they call to McDonald's, they're doing business for McDonald's. On the day I got arrested, they were doing business for the council. You can see the video. They're desperate for somebody from the council to come to give command. Now, I reiterated all this in my hearing on the record. Okay, I went through all this stuff, so it's there. Can't be denied. It's on the record. It's on the record. All right? But they have carried on thinking they're still keeping it doing business. Well, fine, carry on. You carry on. If I'd have been a bit more able, well, the thing is, again, prevented me getting The documents I need notarising, notarised. Everywhere. I asked... So as soon as I went in the court, I tried to get it notarised at reception. I tried to get it notarised from the UFCA. And I asked the judge. No. They're using... It's a business plan strategy in that it's giving them the excuse in every way possible to ensure you cannot get the jurisdiction of law, and it keeps you in the business. You really need to start to recognise that and just how successful they've been in getting you to bend over and obey it. And it's because you're ignorant of the reality of the nation in which you live. You know, you can only keep a nation free when all the population understand their role in keeping that free. Government's not about keeping things free. They're meant to be, but they're not. They're de facto. They're not de jure. For instance, peace officer, police constable is the de jure platform they're supposed to operate under. They've gone de facto. They're flipping into policy enforcers. They're doing business. Now, that's the problem we've got. And they've exposed themselves. The idea, there's a PC and the number, and think that's a name. Okay, no, the name is your Christian name, your first name. Your last name is a surname. That's not a name, it's a sign. All right, it's a sign. So when I say to you, what's your name? I want your fucking name. I don't want a title that you're lying on anyway, a number, and a surname. That isn't a name. Shows me you don't know shit, or you're doing business. You're doing business. Jack Banks, the young one that arrested me, he's liable for that because he assaulted me. Okay, he put cuffs on me and he marched me off into a cage. That's kidnap. All right, that's him, on him. He doesn't understand his ass from his elbow, which you can see he's taking his instruction off Verdonk shot. The one that laughed in my face when I asked for a warrant card. All right? Laughing. Same with Plumber in the Greenbank. I said, let's establish what we're operating under. Are you operating COVID or are you under pace? He said, I'm under pace. I said, show me your warrant card. He said, no. And that's on my oath. Huh? So they've got it wrapped out somewhere in there that their oath that they've took to the Queen, who's supposed to swear that she will operate as a liaison between God's law and enforce it in the realm, that's peace officer. But they're flipping. So this is the deception of Elizabeth Mary Windsor, okay? That's the deception. She's pretending to be on the realm, but she's on business, doing business. And for him to say that, they've mapped that oath to mean that they're still within their oath if they're doing business. Can you see? They didn't carry out the duties that they claimed they were enforcing there, which was act. They didn't do that on their own bat. Nothing to do with what I said who did. I'd gone. They were still there. They didn't fulfil. So I couldn't have been an obstruction by definition. I got a court of record. So we cancelled out them shifting me from police to police in court. Yeah, that got sidelined. So how important is it that if you get arrested on that, you know now that's the mechanic that's going on. If you get issued with a fine, it's ACRO. Police chief constables making up ACRO, not signed into ICO data protection. Therefore, cannot legally collect your data, store it, assure it, and let alone send out you letters demanding fiat. They can't do it. So that's the grammar. Let that absorb it, because it's important, because the little shifts that you have to make, and I've made some big shifts in this little shindig, big shifts, because when I used to do this back in the day, we were all calling them names, but never did they pretend they hadn't got mail. Never could you not access the courts. They tried the shindig back in the day by claiming that, I'm not qualified to give legal advice, so I shouted at the top of my voice, well, are the court employing unqualified people? That changed everything. They jumped off their act. Boom. Do you get what I'm saying? But it was nowhere near as bad then as it is today. This were a joke. You know, the Blackburn Magistrates Court, access denial to communications. Lancashire Magistrates Court sending out piffle as a response as to why they don't have to answer your questions. Against their own court procedure rules. Because remember, they're all person. They're obliged to operate according to the rules. As a man, you're not. But you have to express that you're man, male or female. You with me? And you have to hold it. So the importance of your standing is only carried forward with all your communications. They all have to operate together to hold your standing. They're going to play the act to keep you off the standing. Yeah, and they've all these little trip-ups, these little words to drag in. Like he said, he was getting clever, and it's, oh, so you're a man. So what's your date of birth? Well, I just said, I don't have a date of birth, but I can present you the date of birth of the trust. You see, these are the tricks, and there's thousands of them. Thousands of these tricks that they pull you in. But on the day, the biggest trick they pulled, and this is what you really need to grasp, is the use of... It's a business plan, people. It's a business plan, and it's preventing your access to your civil system. Now, this is dangerous, because if they're successful with this, if they can keep this going, we lose our ability. The courts no longer become courts of law. They become courts of occupation. They're just doing business. Okay, they're doing business, and they're trying every method they can to extract more and more cash out of you. Fiat. More of your property. Yeah. This title, people, get that surname off your title, is the most important thing you can do for yourself. But that's not where it ends. You can't just throw that in. You've got to know how to hold that jurisdiction, and that's when it gets complex. So, great learning curve, this for me, because I've been thrown back in quick smart. So now I can settle down and start to understand what it is I need to understand properly, because it's been well worth it. All these years I've played with this law, sometimes I've asked myself, why do I bother? Why do I keep putting myself in this position? Because inside I knew that is the remedy. This is where the remedy is going to come. You know, it doesn't matter how big their armies are. If we all start moving together to move this grammar correctly, oh my word, have I realised again just how important this nation is. England is something else, you know. But again, that's a citizen of England. You want to be a man, ultimately. But if you're going to be a person, or you're playing in the trust, make sure it doesn't have a surname incorporated with it. And then learn what it is you've got in your hands. Because there is remedy. Folks, there is remedy. So with that, I'm going to shut my gob because I've got headache. Because I've rabbited on. But if what I've put forward in this video isn't making sense to you, then just pop some comments underneath for clarification, and we'll see how we can go. But first, stop thinking you have to tell these people everything. They already know. You will just have to know what you need to know and how to move that and not jump off it. That's it. That's all you need to do. So you don't need 25,000 sheets of anything. You really don't. You need to know what their court procedure and rules are, so that you know when they're breaking them and you can prompt them. But more importantly, you need to come to terms with understanding what the standing of a man is. But ultimately, you yourself need to be a man, yeah, with a relationship to it, an interest into the trust. You're not in there as the trust. Okay, it's so important that these very small truths are recognised, because it cancels out a lot of the nonsense. The nonsense on them, because they're a person, they're all under all these codes, they're under all these rules. You're not, unless you're in there as person. Then you are. We've now got till the 2nd of June, but the most important, like I said, we're off the Monday and Thursday. We're out of the rabbis' hands, and we're under what I class as a bit more Anglo-Saxon. Odin. On a Wednesday. Fantastic. So with that, I'll say, till the next time.